Hi everyone, today we have a wonderful announcement to make. Meeden have collaborated with us to celebrate their 10th anniversary this September, and they are offering 8 prizes to our viewers who make any purchase on Meeden this month. They're going to choose the winners completely at random, and there's no limit as to how much you have to spend. So the first thing we're going to do today is dive in and have a quick look at these prizes that they're going to be offering. And the first prize is going to be one of these Meeden boxes, which is a storage box for all your goodies, and I'm going to show you how I use mine. This is an amazing little box. It's really solid, really strong. It's not tremendously heavy, and it would make a perfect box for storing all your things in if you were going on a road trip in a car or something like that, and you wanted something that was going to be sturdy and would stand up to being bashed about inside the car. As Tamsin said, if your husband throws his golf clubs on top of it, it wouldn't suffer. It would just get a few dents, which would give it more character. It's got a lovely handle made of leather, and it's firmly fixed on with metal fixings screwed into the lid there, and it's got nice brass catches as well to keep it firmly shut. So that's very well made indeed, and it's in 2 parts on the inside. There's this tray here, and then underneath it there's the inside tray. And as you can see, I have put in here, this one's exciting, inside this little folder. You can make one of these really easily. This one I got from Craftamo, and I've got my brushes inside there, and that just folds up really nicely, and it sits on top of all my pens, which is great. And it's nice. This is nice and safe, and kind of cushions these a little bit too when you've got that on top of that. And then in this area here, you've got enough room to put all of these things. You could put a bigger tin of paints if you wanted to. I've got a binder clip. I've got a mini pad of paper in here. I've got a mini palette, some washi tape, my kneadable eraser, a cloth to, wash my brush on, a little Meeden device for opening the paper, splitting the paper from the sheet below in the block, and a little mini water brush, spray bottle, a little mini water bottle, and some paints. This is a tin that came from Meden as well, and inside I've just put a bit of, any old thing in there at the moment, but you could have a complete set of paints in yours. So there we are, that's how that works, and I think that's an excellent way of carrying basically your basics with you wherever you go. So that's the first prize, and it's worth about 50 euros. I don't know how many dollars that would be, similar amount. So that's that. And then there are 2 of these brush stands. I'm going to have to tip it over so you can see. This is, I'm not sure whether they're going to be offering the mahogany one or the pine one. The other thing I just showed you, this colour is pine. This one's mahogany. And we have, I'm going to count, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 times 4. So, well, basically there's room in there for 44 brushes. And they're all different sizes. At the top here, you've got large holes there, and they go down to very small. And there's room in there for all of my Meeden quill brushes, and many others as well. So that's an absolutely amazing way to keep all of your brushes nice and tidy, so that you can always tell where the ones that you want to use are, and it keeps them up the right way so that they don't, so they can stay dry, and so that the handles don't rot and all the rest of it. So very good prize that is. I think there's 2 of those going to be available, and as well they are offering 5 of these cold press watercolor blocks for the 5 runners up. So altogether 8 prizes chosen at random by Meeden from those people who buy something between now and the end of September, all to celebrate their 10th anniversary this year of being one of our favourite suppliers, I think, don't you? So today I'm going to have a go at drawing and then painting a little whimsical hedgehog, And I need to find a pencil, first of all. Where have I put my pencils? I don't know. Here they are. I keep them all in the tin. It's an old tin. And I think I'll start with a 2B or not to be, something like that. Let me sit down and get started on this. So there will be a sketch of this available on our website for you to download if you don't feel confident about drawing. I'm much less confident about drawing when I'm talking at the same time. So I'm just sketching in a tree here, okay? And there's going to be a little branch coming out here. And there'll be some leaves coming off of that in a minute. And then a little bit further back, we'll have another tree over here. The hedgehog's going to go in the middle. And so there's the branch coming out there. When I'm drawing with a pencil, I tend to draw more or less with broken lines, whereas, as you will have noticed if you've been looking at our challenge this month, I've been doing line drawings for the shorts for the challenge, and I'm using a pen, actually a Fudenosuke calligraphy pen for my drawings, and for that I tend to draw more with a continuous line a little bit. I don't know whether this tree is going to have as many branches as this. It probably doesn't need as many as this because it's in the background, but anyway, I've done it anyway. And then, okay, so the ground that the hedgehog is going to stand on is going to be here. So let's give him a nose. We start with the nose, and they have nice little perky noses that come up like that. And then they have a little mouth that comes down like this. And then, don't want him to look too much like a pig, although they are a bit piggy. And then he can have a little paw coming out here. And a little paw coming out here. And then his spines are going to be there. And his eye is right down here. And his ear is quite low. And if you feel that what you've done isn't quite right, which I don't feel that is, just rub that mouth out. And we give him a little bit more cuteness like that. So then I'm just going to put an outline for his back, like that. And then as well, we're going to put some mushrooms in, or 1 or 2 mushrooms. Here we are. And we'll put some grass in here later. Maybe we'll put another couple of small mushrooms over here. They've just started coming up in our garden, the mushrooms. Finally, after all these years, I finally figured out how to draw a mushroom. You can see what I'm doing here. I think that's the easiest way. Now, the spines on the hedgehog kind of come down like this. They leave his tummy a little bit there, and then they go right down to the ground like that, and they're all growing out like a hairbrush. Okay, so like that. And I'm not going to do them in detail in pencil, but what we're going to have up here is some leaves coming off the tree. So that one is still attached, and I'm just doing leaves like this. I won't do the veins in pencil. And we've got another one here. And then he's going to have some leaves coming down to stick on his coat of spines. So we just do them lightly in pencil. And then on the floor, on the ground, we'll have a few more. Like that. And we can have other shapes too, if you want. Something like that. And that's probably enough to be going on with, and we can paint that now. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to depict his spines. I did a drawing, first of all, I'll show you that now. I really like the way when you use a pen, you can get this nice kind of spiky effect. But this is basically what I'm aiming for. And I'm thinking, I'm working on hot press paper here, and I'm thinking I'm going to use gouache for this. I'm not sure if this is a good idea or not, but I have my Meeden gouache set, here. And I'm thinking what colours I'm going to need. So I'll put the colours out in here before I start. And so we are going to be looking at an autumn theme. So we'll start with orange. So we've got something we've got vermilion here. And I'll just put a little bit in. And we might want this colour here, possibly for his tummy. So that's a kind of pink. And we will obviously want some burnt sienna as well. So that's that colour. And what else will we want? Maybe we want some green, perhaps. I don't want to have too many colours in this painting. Maybe some yellow. This yellow probably will work. And so I'll put that there. And am I going to put some blue in the background, some cobalt blue perhaps for the sky? Okay, so we'll see how this goes. I'm not going to do this in the very thick gouache style. I'm going to do it in a slightly thinner, more watery sort of style, I think. And we'll see how that goes. The idea of using the gouache is that I'll be able to go over it a little bit if I make a mistake. Okay, so what brush shall I use? Let's use it's about a size. Let's try this size 6 draw well brush for the smaller details. Perhaps that's a brand new one, so it should have a nice point to it. And a slightly bigger brush, perhaps for the background. This is, I don't know, this is about size 8, I think. So maybe I'll mix some pale blue in the background, and we'll just paint some background loosely. And just because we like our paintings to be kind of loose and not too finicky, I'm just basically dropping the paint in loosely in the background, and it doesn't matter if it goes over the tree a bit at all. And you'll get a different effect with the hot press paper. If you haven't tried it yet, you might want to. It's different, it's much smoother, which means that it has a different effect. Probably either you'll go all tight and want to control everything on the hot press, which some people do, or you'll go all loose like me and just let it do whatever it wants to do. That brush, I find, has got too much of a long hairs, so I'm going to swap to a different one for shorter hairs. Now the hedgehog is going to have, I'm going to get some white out actually. Not white out, I don't mean white out, I mean white out. Get some white out. And I'm going to mix that with a little bit of pink for his tummy. And maybe a tiny bit of brown as well. A bit more white. I'm putting that on reasonably thickly. Okay, and rinse that off. And let's go to the tree trunk, which could be brown with a little bit of green in it to make it a little bit darker. What I might do, it depends on how this turns out at this stage. I'll probably put more leaves on there actually. But I might do some line work over the top. It just depends. We never quite know, do we? And this one in the background here wants to be a little bit grayer. Sort of grey brown, but it's further away, so we make it a little bit grayer. I probably will do some line work because I quite like the effect of that. And then let's come into some green, but we don't want it the green as it comes out of the tube. We want it to be a little bit more soft. Put the background up here a bit more to match up with the line over that side as well. Just painting around the mushrooms. That's what they call, some people call negative painting. And if you don't like the colour that you've done, you can always change it. Put another layer on top if you want. Could add a little bit more yellow for the foreground if you want. I might clean off my brush and go into the yellow fresh. And a little bit of green. When I paint with gouache, I tend to use a little bit more of a oil painting sort of style, a little bit, because there's a tendency to feel as if it is asking to be used a bit thicker and in a slightly different way. It's hard to describe what I mean really, but yeah. So for the back of the hedgehog, I'm thinking I probably ought to use a small brush and do lots of spines, and I think I might want some black. So this is the burnt sienna mixed with a bit of black to make a dark brown. Started to rain again. I'll just mix up the colours a little bit. There's probably 1,000 ways of painting the spines of a hedgehog. But what we do want is a mixture of light and dark. Oof. Weather's just suddenly changed. Temperature's dropped. So I'm using quite a small brush, and this is quite a little bit of a time-consuming kind of process, I suppose, but just look upon it as being a relaxation. Just use the point of the brush and keep the spines a little bit separate from one another. They probably are a bit longer as you get towards the back than they are nearer the front. That's where a leaf is going to go. And a little bit more light colour. And I think his paws are probably a little bit darker than his body. And a little bit more colour in there. And we'll go fairly light on his nose, I think. Okay. I'm just going to close the door. Okay, so let's just put his little eye in using some black. And his little nose. And then let's mix up some orange using the vermilion and the cadmium yellow and a little bit of burnt sienna. I'm not sure whether there's a lot of point in me trying to speak at the moment because of the rain, which has suddenly decided to come down. Now, I'm not trying to paint the outline of these leaves in any detail because I'm going to go over them with pen. Oof. There we are, it stopped. No, Oriole, no. Not time for the cat to be on the table. Thank you. And we'll just paint these lovely orange leaves coming down. And I think I'll paint some on this tree in the background here. Such funny weather. And just have some really nice autumnal leaves there. And over on the other side, I think I'll just put in some more leaves still on the tree. We can put some branches in when we come in with the pen. They're not meant to be super realistic, remember, but we'll put some nice red mushrooms. The ones in our garden are not red. They are white, really. Okay, maybe we'll put a few more leaves down here. Right, so now it's time to come in with the pen, and I think I put it in my box. And the nice thing about the hot press paper is that it is smooth, and so a pen like this works quite well. I'm just going to go over these mushrooms in the background here, just to get started with the pen, because when you first start, you swap from paint to pen. You might feel a little bit rusty kind of thing. And this one in the distance, I'm doing this with a 0.3. And you can put all the details in that you want, that you can't, unless you're some kind of a miracle worker with watercolor or gouache, which I'm not. You can't get these kinds of details in, so you can do it with a pen. Yeah, and all your little branches and some of your leaves. So we'll come down here with our little leaves, which you can make any shape you want, because this is where it comes into being whimsical. And if you fancy heart-shaped leaves coming down, just draw them. Okay, and then we can put a few up here too if we want. A few leaves on the trees. They're already loose, they're coming down. Put the branches in to make it look a bit more realistic. Little twigs and things. Not too much, just a little bit, and a bit more shadow perhaps to give texture on the tree, if you like. And we can put some shadow underneath small mushrooms in the background there. And then we can have little bits of grass growing over here just to give, again, a little bit more texture. So then we'll come to these mushrooms. And we could put in the gills, which will radiate out from the centre, which is quite fun. I quite like doing that. Little hats. And then I decided to make these a little bit like beech leaves. I don't know if you have beeches where you live, but they're not really beech leaves, but they're similar. So they've got a bit more shape than they had with the paint. And we just have fun with them, really. Whew, hands going stiff. Right. And we have background in the background here. So let me do this tree, which is bigger, with my slightly fatter brush, where I can have some slightly darker lines. And we'll just bring this outline, that's what we do, because it's easier. If you're using one of these Fudenosuke brushes, they're made by Tombow, I think, you don't want to press too hard unless you want a really dark line. Oh, sugar, look what I've done. I knew I've touched his nose. Okay, so we don't want him to have a moustache. That's, oh. Worst comes to the worst, we can always paint over it because we've got gouache, and gouache will go over. That's okay. Sorted you out. Yes. Right then. What was I doing? Yes, the rest of the brushes, leaves. Oh dear. That was a panic moment over. It's so easy to put your hand on top of your damp. See, I even tried, didn't I? I thought I'd got it sorted by putting the hairdryer on, but I didn't do it for long enough, it seems. Just going to indicate the little bits of grass by just putting dots and dashes in the foreground there. Now, when we drew him, we realised how important the line of his face is. And it's important that he has this curly nose. They do have little paws with claws. I wouldn't say they were fierce. We rescued a hedgehog a while back, a couple of winters ago now, I suppose it was. And he was really cute, but he escaped. I hope he came to a happier place. Hope he didn't kill himself. Give him just a little bit of expression there. And these leaves are meant to have been trapped on his spines. So he's got spines coming through them like that. Yes. There we are. And, oh yes, we've got these ones up here to do. They look like they're being swept around by the wind. Very appropriate to us here at the moment because we've got a lot of wind going on. Feels like autumn has really arrived. They say it's meteorological autumn on the 1st of September. We never used to say it was autumn here in England, in France and England until sometime in October. But now it's autumn from the 1st of September, so I don't know why. Lots of leaves on this tree. Not so many branches. I'm not going to do any more details over there. I'm going to leave it more or less like that. And take my smaller pen again and just finish off the horizon there. And I think that will probably do. It's well past my lunchtime, so I'm going to stop now. Everyone in the house is going to be wondering what happened. But, yeah. So there we are, one little hedgehog capturing leaves on his spiny coat. And don't forget about the giveaway, the things that I showed you at the beginning, the brush stand and the box, storage box, and the pieces of paper, the pads of paper that they're offering, which are the 5x7 size, which is like these ones in cold press. 8 prizes altogether for celebrating Meden's 10th anniversary. So there we are. I'll let you go and I will see you again soon. That will be Saturday when we've got our next podcast coming out, so you might be interested to see that too. Right, bon appétit tout le monde, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye for now, everybody. Bye bye.